Hello, my fellow warriors of love. I've been meaning to shoot this video for some time now, and I just want to be very vulnerable and transparent with you guys. I've been putting myself out there for the last 15 years and, shared some beautiful moments, I even have some moments where I'm literally like covering up, talking about dark entities and things like that. But yeah, what a beautiful journey. I just want to share a little bit more of my story, like go more in depth of how did I get here and how did we get here as a planet. What I would like for you guys to get out of this video is clarity about what's going on in the big picture. What's going on our planet. How do we break free? How do we empower ourselves? How do we experience and express our infinite sovereignty, freedom, and empowerment on all levels? And talking about spiritual warfare and sharing some vulnerability in terms of how I got here, some of the stories. So for those of you that don't know, I started off born in Jordan, grew up in Dubai, and as a kid I would pray to God and just say, I'm very confused. Why am I here? Who are these people? School, I felt like literally like an alien born into a human body because the way people approached me, and I was very different, and everyone spoke Arabic for the most part, and for some reason I spoke in English, but I understood Arabic. We grew up speaking English, Arabic, and French, and yeah, like Dubai to me was very dense. It was a very dense reality for an empath, someone who's very sensitive. It's like growing up in Las Vegas. It was very dense energies and hierarchies and super wealthy and super poor and people being treated like slaves to build the whole city, and people in power just abusing their power, doing whatever they want, violating people all sorts of ways, people, children, like, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, I'm glad I made it out of there. Very happy to have immigrated every place has its light side and dark side. So I'd say the light side of growing up in Dubai is my dad left Lebanon. My dad witnessed a lot of trauma in Lebanon, a lot of wars. Mom left Lebanon, Jordan, Syria. So both my parents had to sacrifice to bring us to Dubai, and then both of them had sacrificed to bring us to Canada. So I'm very grateful for that. Very far from my roots. It's very hard for me to root down. I move like 5-6 times a year. But I'm really seeking that more than anything, just seeking, that North Node Cancer, which really wants home, family, nurturing. And yeah, as a kid, didn't fit in, felt a lot of heaviness, experienced a lot of traumas, got bullied in school, people just picking on me for no reason, beating me up for no reason, and then teachers just trying to, I was having a hard time in class. I was having a hard time following the program, right? Needed some extra support from the teachers. I kept raising my hand to the point that I just felt like I was bothering the teacher so much. I needed like someone next to me the whole time to just explain what was going on because I was so overwhelmed by everything that was going on in class. But and thank God I wasn't put on any ADHD, ADD medications, and just wrote it, because I don't believe that that's something you take medication for. Definitely had a stronger sixth sense to spirits and angels and guides, and I definitely experienced some really interesting things growing up. I remember feeling hopeless and sad, and just feeling immediately held by a loving presence. And in that moment, there was no need to cry, there's no need to be sad, because I'm supported on some unseen level. And then moved to Toronto when I was 17. So some point in high school, I went from the shyest, quietest guy to just like shaving my head, getting into rap music and rock music, and it just all came out. Went from introvert to extrovert, just getting into a lot of fights and kind of being, more of a bad boy, getting kicked out of class, and just like exercising freedom, sovereignty. So skipping class, uh, skipping class. But the school was really tough that I was in. So if I messed up during the week, they would keep me after school. And if I failed the after school test, they keep us on the weekends. And if I failed the weekend test and I failed the grade, then they keep us for summer school. So it was a school that just really was pushing so hard for everyone to get high grades. It was like a very tough school in that sense. Not like like a typical American Canadian standard school. It was very tough, and my dad wanted the best for me. He wanted me to have good grades, and I was getting the lowest grades in class. So there was pressure from home to get better grades. There's pressure from school. Why can't I be like my older brother? There's the middle child syndrome. So there's all these things, right? And so happy to come to Toronto. Miraculously got into college even though I failed high school twice. Studied marketing because my dad's like, take something, so I took it. I didn't want to go. I went to please my parents. But I remember when it all changed. So I was the Matrix movie had been out. Matrix movie came out 1999, and we immigrated to Canada when I was. We immigrated to Canada in '99. So 4 years later, I'm taking an elective in college. It was a philosophy elective, and they say school teaches you what to think, and they say philosophy teaches you how to think. And so, something about that philosophy class just got me to open up my mind and started. I can't pinpoint exactly when the awakening kind of happened for me. Just lost my light. Okay. No, can't pinpoint when the awakening exactly happened, but a few things that contributed to the awakening for me were taking a philosophy elective, and just downloading a crap load. I can't remember. I don't know if you guys remember BitTorrent or whatever it was called, where you could just kind of like Napster, where you could download all these things. So I was downloading everything esoteric, all these audiobooks, books. Just it's like the Matrix when he's tapped in and it's just getting all these downloads. I felt like I was getting that through information. And sometimes you watch these sci-fi movies and the alien being just like puts their hand over machine and just gets all that information, right? I'm also Virgo rising, which is like obsessed with information. So just getting all this info to awaken. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation in the New Age movement. But I also like the personal development stuff. I like the first thing. Anyways, I'll get to it. So I was reading every book I can find about esoteric topics, the power of the mind, things like that. And a part of me is like, why didn't I just live stream this video? It's going to be long. So fast forward, so a few of the things that led to the awakening were philosophy elective, teaching me how to think, the story of Socrates who chose to die with the truth instead of going and lying to his students and telling them the things he was teaching them were not true. So he was sharing so much truth with his students that the powers that be at the time gave him a choice to, they put him in a prison with some poison, if I remember the story correctly. And they were like, either take the poison and kill yourself, or, come out of prison and tell the students everything the things you were saying were lies. And he chose death, which means he chose truth. And I was really touched by that story. And I'm not consciously aware of what clicked in that class. Might have been my teacher. Maybe he was an alien. He kind of looked like an interesting character. And might have been like, the transference that happens. Think about it. The person's a philosophy teacher. So the transference that he's doing to his students, right? That's what those Socrates characters did. They like opened the minds of their students. So he was doing the job that a real teacher is supposed to be doing, awakening the minds, expanding the awareness, the minds of the students. So that, coupled with the movie The Matrix, realizing we're all in a virtual reality, and how do we break free from the Matrix? What is the Matrix? Coupled with, I was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol at that time, like abusing it. One of the turning points in my life was a night where I had my best friend at the time and a few friends over, and we were all drinking, smoking. I was doing everything in excess, as Aries usually do. And it's the morning after, and the sun's up, and I'm still drinking, still smoking, not enjoying the cigarette, not enjoying the drink. And all my friends are passed out and just feeling so miserable. And at one point, it just felt like my heart stopped. It was like a spasm, but I didn't know what it was. But it's just like, and I just felt like I couldn't breathe. And in my mind, I wasn't afraid of death, but I was afraid of wasting my life. And I still have this fear of wasting my life, although I've really surrendered that a lot in the last month. Because really, when I dig underneath it, there's the fear of death. Like, there's some fear of, like, when you really, really dig. And I was like, whatever, come whatever may attitude, which was really empowering. So, I had 5 MDMA pills. So it's like ecstasy pills. We used to go to clubs, pop a pill, go to house clubs on the weekends. And my intuition, my guidance said, pop one every single day, ride it out 5 days, and do it therapeutically, do it at home. So I would have baths, I would burn incense, I'd play, I think it was Enya at the time. I didn't know of like healing music. This is like 2004, still 24 years old or something. And I'm playing these like kind of healing songs, burning incense, getting all this information from these audiobooks and things like that. Let me continue the story. So heart attack, I pray that I pray to God that I don't die because I felt like I was wasting my life. And then 5 seconds later, my heart goes back to normal. So I felt like I was given a second chance on life. That was the turning point to quit caffeine. I was drinking coffee a lot, quit sugar, quit salt or bad salts, bad sugars, quit vegetarianism. Quit eating meat, became a vegetarian. Just started to take care of myself because I was like punishing my body. I was punishing myself, and I learned through health. One of the ways I can love myself is by putting good things in my body. So that was a turning point. And then there's this one night where, with the pills, I'm popping the MDMA pill. Like now, science and studies are coming out that say that they can be really used in a drastic way to help people with PTSD and all sorts of traumas. So I didn't know that at the time consciously, but intuitively I was popping the MDMA pill, kind of doing it. I was doing it ceremoniously, and I would just journal. And I remember one of the streams of consciousness I was journaling, it was like kind of matrix stuff. So it's like we're controlled from when we're born by parents, and then it's like culture, and then it's society, and there's religion, and then it's like police and government, and like all these systems of controls, like boxes within boxes, like Russian dolls. And it's almost like by writing them out, it's like broke that one, broke. It's like keys. I was just unlocking all these cages of the mind. I was also writing a lot of poetry. I wish I had the poems that I would just channel. I remember once I just channeled this poem. I'm just fully just writing it without thinking and just stream of consciousness. And I remember performing it at York University in front of all these students. And I remember one of this, I think Kanan at that time is a Canadian artist from Somalia, did an opening at this event. It was like before he was famous. And they invited a few people to do like 5 minutes of whatever. So I've got all these like random papers, and I didn't even perform it. A typical Aries, like, yeah, I got this. And I'm on stage reading these poems. And it was so powerful. Like I remember being like, sometimes I'll write poems, like even now I'm like compiling my poems and I read them and I have no recollections of, I'm like, wow, this is a great poem. Who wrote it almost, you know? So I remember reading that poem and being blown away. I also remember subconsciously like getting rid of that poem, like somehow I deleted it because it was so powerful. I was so afraid. I was afraid of how much truth it had. Performed it. I remember these people coming up, this guy coming up and saying, "Oh, so you're studying political science?" Something I never studied anything like that. Far from it, right? And he was like, "Yeah, we're studying these things in school," and he touched on a bunch of topics, and like he was learning. It's just a beautiful compliment to say that he is studying in university, and some things that I've shared in my poem inspired him, right? So, so writing these poems, started getting into creating my own rap. Like I think that was the first time I was recording my first rap songs around those times, and we created this song called Hashashin. It was just so fun. We had a friend, shout outs to Faisal, and he was like, "Hey, we'll go to the studio. I'll pay for the studio session." He takes us to this like amazing studio session, pays for the whole session. I think he just wanted practice to be a producer because he knew he was going to be a musician when he graduated. So I think he was just like getting his feet wet. So me and my friend Ahmed at the time, Obi, go to the studio, and he's reading from like news magazine or something. That's an article about the Hashashin. So the word assassins comes from Hashashin. Younger generation know it through the game Assassin's Creed. And it was like a secret sect in Middle Eastern history that fought against the Knights Templars. So it was like Knights Templars, Hashashin, assassins. And so it's the story of that. So I remember reading a little bit on Newsweek or whatever that magazine is, and I just turned it into rap song. We had a beat somewhere, and I came up with the chorus. We put it online on this site, and it goes like #1. It was like voted like the best song, and I wrote this like poetic rap about weed. I was smoking a lot of weed at the time, so there's already a song called "I Feel So Light." So my girlfriend's cousin recorded that part, a female vocalist. And then I wrote like this poetic rap song about weed. I wrote it as if, like, it's just very poetic because you wouldn't think I was talking about weed. And it was like this without even trying. Things were just aligning with music and rap. And, I had a relationship with a girlfriend at the time. And so the MDMA awakening, health awakening, I just felt guided. All the grudges I was holding on to, towards family members and school and friends that bullied me, I just reached out to them. I reached out to the ones that affected me the most, and I really said I was ready to forgive, and with that was one of the biggest, hardest things I ever had to do is confront. And just hearing the responses made me cry, and started my process of healing. And so that's how I would say that's like the first step. That's why till this day, every session I do, there's a component. One of the steps in the infinity healing process is the forgiveness process. And we integrate it into every session. We do an inner child healing. We take our power back from these experiences, learn the lessons, clear the karma. Anyway, so the next step was I just left school. My parents were like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I just don't know. It's definitely not this. So I remember being in college. I remember feeling the need to create a group to help people break free from the matrix. Like it was an impulsive Aries thing. I was like printing the flyers. I don't even know. It was probably some image I found online, and I just wrote, let's meet in this room. I probably found some empty room that no one was using in college, and I just found boards where you can post upcoming events, and I just like posted them all over the college. And I was like, we're breaking free from the matrix. Now, while this is happening, I'm like, it's starting to be like surveillance state. I had one of the first books I read, like I never paid attention to a lot in school. Definitely fell asleep during English classes when we're reading the books we're supposed to be reading. So I never really read a book until around 24. And 24, I think one of the first books I read, I was reading into like, what were those books called? They were like what's his name? It's like really positive stuff, positive stories. The name will come to me, and it was like Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, or some really small book. The second book I got from my older brother, I believe, was 1984, George Orwell's 1984, and I was like, oh my god, it's starting to happen. They're starting to put security guards in every bank. They're starting to put cameras everywhere we go. And I was like, it's happening, They're 20 years late. But, so there's like a thin line between being aware that it's a conspiracy and a thin line where you think it's out to get you. And there's probably elements of truth in both, but not necessarily me, but just like truth is a threat, light is a threat. So in a way, yes. And I never did the group, but I ended up, I think someone called me and I met up with him. I think his name was Mario, and he was in the college, and one of the guys that would be in those meetups now has a big truth movement YouTube channel exposing all these things, and the other guy had like 100, it felt like 20 CD burning things and a computer with all these like DVDs and ebooks, and it was like conspiracy, what's called conspiracy, but it's really truth. It's like suppressed truth, hidden truths about everything you can imagine. So would go there, would do movie nights, conversations, but it just felt very heavy for me, and it felt like it was stuck. Like we went down the rabbit hole and we stayed stuck in this one area, and I was like, there's more. What do we do with this? Like we can't just stay here. But it was the first step, and no, I never did a meeting then, but here I am all these years later. It's 2023 now, and I finally started that group, and it's on Telegram, and I'll put the link below. I believe the group's called Freedom Warriors. So every time I find a documentary, I find a YouTube video, a YouTube channel, a website, an author, someone who is helping spread awareness, truth, empowerment, sovereignty, information. I'm very selective with the info. I have a strong BS detector, bullshit detector, so I'm not, because even the truth movement got corrupted and sabotaged, because they start putting a lot of untruths in the truths. And there's all these people who think they're, now suddenly spiritual and suddenly, truthers, because in the last 2 years they woke up. But it's like, I've had a full-time job for the last 15 years researching all this stuff for myself. I just do it whenever I have time. I just make time and listen to podcasts and ebooks and documentaries. So this is like early, the OG truthers. I'm sure there's people before me, but pretty committed, pretty dedicated. Spent a lot of time at the libraries. I prioritized reading and learning these things over having I had a small tiny room at the beaches, right? Really nice place here in Toronto. And I spent a lot of time just at the bookstores reading and reading and reading. So I prioritized truth over, friends, and, celibate for a year, and I was just doing this monk thing. Yeah, my whole life changed, and I remember I discovered hypnosis at the time. I remember reading this book. She became one of my teachers. She actually trained me to be a trainer of hypnosis. So she had a book called In Between Lives. So I remember reading that book. I remember barely had any money, but I invested in a $60 sound recorder, which had a little tape at the time, before all the fancy gadgets we got now. And I was terrified of this, but I recorded her past life script. I was like, when I go back home, I'll play it, but I was terrified. I was like, I'll do it in the middle of the day, because if I do it at night, what if I get stuck in that past life? It sounds funny, but when I was certified as a hypnotherapist, people have legitimate concerns about hypnosis. So I was like, what if I get stuck in that past life? Let me make sure I'm doing it in the daytime where it's safer, because if I do it at night, I'll just astral get lost somewhere. So I recorded the script, and I recorded it. Actually, I didn't even have the money to pay for the book, so I took the book to the washroom in the library, and I recorded the whole script in the washroom, sitting on the toilet seat. And then I went back home, played it, and I remember there's some really felt like dark magician people living downstairs. And my roommate was my experience of her was a little unstable, and but I went to sleep, and I played it, so it put me into a deep hypnotic state. But I woke up 2:00 in the morning, so I have no recollections of where I was in that session. So I tried a few more times, and I couldn't have the conscious awareness of what was happening. I would rather have someone right next to me to be like, hey, you've gone too deep, come back to an aware state and verbalize what you're seeing and feeling. But fast track now, I'm married a few years later. I go through a big depression. My girlfriend leaves to Hungary at the time. I go into such a deep, deep, deep depression, super deep depression. So lonely, just, kind of like how I would feel homeless people feel, just no friends at the time, and far from family and friends, and just alone, living in a basement, shitty jobs, getting fired from all the crappy jobs. Very depressing. Very, very depressing. And I remember I was just trying to numb out, because I was in such a high when I was with my girlfriend, and then when she left 4 years later, I just went into such a deep depression. And almost every night I would just distract myself all day, and then nighttime comes and I'll just feel the knocking feelings, and I could just think of my mind came up with a solution for survival, and it was go get a big bag of Doritos. And sometimes I would do a big bag of Doritos and a big bag of Oreos. And I'll just numb the emotions out by pleasurable foods. And I would do that almost every night. And I remember the one day I had the epiphany where I had a bicycle. I jump on the bicycle, and when I got on my bike to ride to the store, I realized the process of moving, that movement alchemized the energy. So I realized in that moment I don't have to numb it out, I just gotta shake it out. Anyways, fast track, still reading, studying all this info. Then I meet my ex-wife, and then I remember just praying. I remember reading these books, Law of Attraction, whatnot. I was like, I like the idea of life purpose. What is my life purpose? How can I manifest a job and a career that is purposeful, that is meaningful, that utilizes the best gifts that I have to offer? And up until that point, I was like, I have nothing. felt I had something. I had no idea what it was. It wasn't like, hey, you have these really good gifts. It's like I rarely had praise in school about anything that I was good at. In fact, it was the opposite. Like, I'm a failure. I'm getting the lowest grades. What do I have to offer? So I prayed for a purposeful career. And I remember looking at, so many opportunities, like job applications, and it's like, it was nothing. There was nothing that school could teach me. There was nothing that the job applications had that was for me. But I just put it out there and had faith and trust. And I remember seeing it was like Jesse's not-for-profit organization helping single moms or abused moms with raising their children. I was like, so already I knew that North Node cancer, which is kind of like, the North Node represents what you'll feel most fulfilled in this lifetime. If you guys don't know that, check out my North Node video. Mine's in Cancer. They're the divine mothers. Think Princess Diana would go around the world helping the kids, things like that. So I'm not knowing any of this stuff astrologically, but I intuitively felt it. I was like that. So the question I asked myself is, what would I do? Not for money, but for fulfillment. And that's why it was a volunteer job. So that's a beautiful nugget of wisdom you can pull out from this and ask yourself, what would I do that I would, what would you, if you could volunteer for any cause, what would that cause be? So that's how I actually started thinking that way. I wasn't thinking money, I was thinking fulfillment. And I went and I applied, and they're like, you're a guy, what do you know about kids? And what do you know about single moms and this and that? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to find something purposeful. So anyways, I didn't get the volunteer job. I couldn't even get a volunteer job. I remember even applying for a job in McDonald's. They wouldn't even accept my application for that. Anyways, fast track. Now I am in the 6-month program called Serve Canada. It's a not-for-profit helping troubled youth in Toronto find just better themselves. So game changer. Shout outs to Rhonda. She's a fellow Aries. She was our youth instructor, or whatever they're called, youth person, I don't know what the term is, but she was there. She was inspiring us, right? The gift of the Aries, inspire. And it was amazing. They just saw my leadership skills. They were giving me positive feedback. I got to recreate the story I had of being a failure. Like, they were like, hey, there's all these youth and only a handful got in. We were 5 or 6 at the end. And there was like 20, 30 at the beginning. And they were like, they put us through all these exercises to see how we, if we have these traits they're looking for. And they were like, we love how you took initiative and you took charge and you took leadership and, you led the group. And I was like, oh, cool. I got some good skills here. Being praised for something. This is good. I'm being seen, a little bit of acknowledgement goes a long way. And got in, and it was so fun. And shout outs to Brian if you're watching this. He was a soul bro. Who I inspired with his purpose, and he became an amazing photographer. Anyways, that gave me so much confidence. I completed the 6 months program, and we just learned a lot. During that program, they were like, in order to graduate from the 6-month program, you got to choose one thing once a week that you go to volunteer. And I remember Rhonda helped our supervisor. I don't know what to call her, but she's like a youth coach, like a kind of our teacher, right? I'm sure there's a term for it, but I can't think of it. And she helped everyone in the room, and I'm sitting there regressing back to school where I'm like, everyone's got to figure it out, and I have no clue what I'm doing, and I'm just feeling like a failure, feeling like a loser. And she comes to me and she's like, so what do you think your thing is? And I was like, I really don't know. Like, I can't think of anything. And she was like, we have a really good connection with a school. It's like it's like more, I don't use the word poor, but people who didn't have a lot of money, neighborhood, right? And it was the Mandela Public School. Shout outs to the Mandela Public School. Shout outs to David, if I'm not mistaken. David was a teacher there. And Rhonda had a connection with David, and he taught, I believe, kindergarten or grade 1 children. So I was like, she was like, how does that feel? I was like, freaking, that sounds great. I have all this energy and inspiration, and I'm a big kid at heart, and yeah, I just love kids as well. Again, North Node Cancer, Divine Mother, the supporter, the nurturer. So I apply to be a volunteer, and I get the gig, and David is a fellow, I don't know, bald-headed dude from the 80s too, and he was older than me. He was definitely older than me. So we both had hip hop in common. We both liked hip hop. He knew the old school hip hop. He grew up with it, and he was really into it. So I thought that was really cool. And he was a teacher, and I was there, and it was cool, man. I just remember all these kids from different cultures, and just walking them from one room, from classroom to another classroom, and just looking at them the way they look at me, like I'm an alien, and just being supportive. And actually, someone told me this the other day. I must have added it. Fuck, I wish I could remember. So I actually came up with a song, and it was like a really positive song. So we would sing the song when we're going from, let's say, the classroom to, so the volunteer position was like a teacher's assistant. And sometimes I would just sit there quietly, but just like my fiery energy would get all the kids fired up, and I was making it worse for the teacher than better, but we calmed down eventually. But I noticed like when because I'm just naturally fired up, so just I had to like ground in my energy, and then the energy of the class would calm down. So yeah, it was like a beautiful song, like I am loved, and wow, I deserve love, or it was just like a very sweet song that had the positive affirmations of like feeling loved and feeling deserving, or something like that. Someone literally like a few weeks ago told me they heard it in one of my audio programs. So I've got 13 audio healing programs. So in one of them, I must have shared the story, and I must have shared the actual song. So if anyone knows it, please type it in below, or let me know which module has the song, because I'm going to turn it into a song. And so that was the first step, right? So now I'm volunteering, and that led to applying for. I remember me and Brian, my friend from that 6-month youth program, we applied to do ECE, early childhood education, because I was like, I think that's something fulfilling. I think I can thrive in that environment. I think that's a purposeful career. But again, it was still a job within the matrix options, right? So I remember thinking something to do with children, school, like a positive school. Like, again, it's like the nurture. Didn't get into ECE somehow. Our application, they didn't accept it. I also made a bad impression in the class, because me and Brian are such shit disturbers. We're just like class clowns. So, I remember just laughing a lot during that test and trying to make Brian laugh. So that didn't go well with them. And but anyways, met my ex-wife. We got into a 1 year. I got a 1 year. We both got a 1 year contract to do work in school. She was working with like a not-for-profit youth after school program. I got into a private daycare, and it was like an assistant job. So all these extracurricular activities, or assisting other school, the food, like food lunch, someone to help kids during lunchtime, like the kids who had special needs, right? Um, so much fun, like best job ever. And when it was like playtime, whatever it's called, I'll just like run around with the kids, and the women that were there for a longer time would be like, hey, Tara, come sit down with us, and you don't have to play with the kids right now. I'm like, I'm not doing this for them, I'm doing it for myself. Like, I'm actually having fun. So I never looked at it as a job, right? I'm like genuinely happy. I was like, how am I getting paid to do this? It's freaking amazing. But I also remember feeling a little depressed, waking up every morning at 6 and hopping on the bus, and it was like an hour to get there. And so it was like starting to take a toll on me, like maybe closer to the end of the 1 year. But that was a huge win. Like, I'm getting paid to do what I love. I won. I won in the game of life. And then, so the 1 year's up, and I speak to my manager or whatever. It's just like, we're unfortunately, because it was through an organization that like the government somehow pays you to do this position. And it's beautiful. I remember like, those kids left an impression on me, like the special needs kids. So adorable, so beautiful, beautiful beings. One was like, I remember these two, they were best friends, and one was really malicious. Like, anytime you turn your head around, he'll grab a pencil and like start stabbing it on the table, or and the other one would just like say I love you to everyone and want to hug them. He wants to hug everyone, whereas the other one was like the dark side of that. He wasn't like hurting people, but he just felt like he was always up to no good. And then there was this one Asian kid who he was autistic, so he wasn't speaking using words, but he would grab all the animals and he would just like teach me. So he'd grab the cow and he'd be like, moo, and it's like he's teaching me. He's like, this animal goes moo, and it'll go moo back, and it'd be like, get, and then he'll grab another animal and he'll like teach me all the sounds. So yeah, when the 1 year was up, I was like, okay, I remember telling my coworkers, I was like, hey guys, they're letting me go, and they're like, oh my God, you're getting fired. Oh my God, that's so bad. It's so sad. By that time, I had so much faith. I was like, hey, the door that opened, the universe opened the door for me to get into this job, and now it's opening up another door for me that's even more aligned than this. So I have full faith. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what it is. And so my ex-wife at the time, shout outs to Alicia. So my first girlfriend was like 4 years, and then Alicia was my second longest relationship. It was 4 years. And she finds out this program that helps people who are on like employment benefits. So when we both left that job after 1 year, we're both on employment benefits, like in between jobs, they give you some money. And then she discovers there's this program that pays you and trains you. There's a whole school part of it, like for 3 months, 6 months, where they teach you how to start a business. So we both get into it. And I got in, I'm getting paid every month, we're covering our expenses, and we're in this training, and we're starting our businesses. So how beautiful. And I have no clue what I'm gonna do, but I'm in the day one, and I speak to my coach, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna rent this beautiful store in Toronto, and we're gonna buy all these like CDs and new agey stuff, and like Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Celestine Prophecies, like all these books that are gonna inspire and motivate people. Which, by the way, the Telegram group is going to do the job of that, except instead of it being a store, it's just information all in one place. And then we're going to transfer that to a section on my website where it's going to have all these resources. And yeah, like really cool. Like, I noticed there were video games that help with your meditation and consciousness, and board games like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad board game that helps people break out of the matrix, money matrix at least. So board games, like all this kind of media that can awaken people. And I was like, that's a good idea, but it's not going to work. He was like, you're going to need to sell a shitload of books and products just to cover rent. So I was like, it's not a good idea. And then I was like, yeah, I'm like, I can help people. Like if they're lost in their lives and need some guidance, I can help them. Is like, oh yeah, what kind of training do you have to do that? I was like, I don't really have training. I'm really good at inspiring people. And he was like, you really need to go get like a coaching certification or a degree or something. And I was like, oh fuck, like I hated school from kindergarten day one. I was just talking to my dad the other day. I was crying from day one kindergarten. I was like, when is this shit gonna end? And then I just dropped out of college like recently before that. And then I looked up coaching programs are like 2 years, 4 years of more school. And I was like, oh, I'm so done with school. So I'm feeling super bummed out. I'm feeling like a big failure. I feel like I'm such a loser. And like, how am I gonna do this? Like, he shat on my proposal. And he's telling me I need to go study for another 2-4 years. And then I was subscribed to these like law of attraction, mind power newsletters. And I look at the one that I really enjoy. And I scroll to the bottom of this email. And at the very bottom it says, you can be a hypnotherapist today. It was like God speaking to me. I was like, today? Okay, I'm doing this. So I go online and I Google hypnosis schools in Toronto, speak to a few of them. One guy's like, yeah, check out my videos. I'm helping this guy who was told he'll never walk again. He's walking now. I speak to another guy. And then I speak to this one woman, Greek woman, Debbie Papadakis. Shout outs to Debbie Papadakis. Legend, like the amount of information this woman has, She's featured on the Oprah magazine. There were celebrities wanted to fly her out to Hollywood and do sessions with her. So she was pretty legendary. Like the whole classroom was just certifications, and then we opened this other room and it was packed with certifications and like every modality you can imagine, she had it. So I decided to take her course. It was an 8-day course. Yes, guys, you can be certified in 8 days to be an hypnotherapist, and I even train others to be certified in 4 days. I give double the value that I got and half the amount of time. Because we include inner child, past life, future life, in between lives, and using hypnosis way deeper than I was taught. Anyway, side note. So, love it. Oh my God. If school was like this from day one, I tell you. So 8 days later, she brings in clients for us to practice how to do hypnosis for. I didn't have the money at the time. My mom just walked out. I'm here at my parents' place right now visiting Toronto. And my mom lent me the $2,000. Thank you, Mama. Lent me $2,000 to pay for the course because I didn't have money at the time. It was $2,000. Best $2,000 ever. And then, so 8th day, she brings in, Debbie, our teacher, brings in her clients. And then I get to practice what I've learned with this one client. And I remember right before that, I remember being in a circle. It was graduation day when she bought us pizza or whatever. And we're going around in circles and people are sharing what they want to use hypnosis for. And the super healthy guy, fit guy, was like, I want to work with athletes. People were sharing different things. And then it came to me and I was like, I really want to help people heal their inner child, heal their traumas. And that's what I realized with the job in the daycare is it wasn't children necessarily, it was the inner children. I was trying to heal my own inner child and I was trying to help other people's inner children. So sometimes you take jobs and they're like leading to the next thing. Like you're halfway to the deeper fulfillment. And I remember her saying, yeah, you're not allowed to help with trauma. This is a hypnosis course. You need some psychiatrist or whatever. You'll get in trouble if you do that. And I just felt like if Michael Jordan was told you can't play basketball, if Michael Jackson was told you can't sing, it's like I knew in my heart that was my destiny, and I'm being told now on the graduation day that you can't do that. Did I listen? Of course not. So, but I remember just like feeling really, I don't know if I cried or just got really emotional, but I felt completely shut down. But I did what I needed to do. So graduated, got to practice with one of her clients that she's been working with for years. Remember, she's just like this legendary, high level, tons of certifications, want to fly her out to Hollywood, pay a lot of money for her healings, Oprah magazine. And here I am, just in my 8 days for a session, and the lady was blown away. She's like, Tarek, I got more results working with you in your practice session here than I did with all the sessions I did with Debbie. And that went straight to my ego. I was like, I'm fucking good at this. And like, for someone who was told their whole lives you're not good at stuff, to have someone say you're good at it, it went straight to my ego. My ego inflamed. And it's good, because to me, there's healthy ego, which means confidence. I don't know Aries that don't have confidence. It's one of our gifts. So, boom, I know what I'm here to do. I'm certified as a hypnotherapist. I'm gonna just heal the world. So, I'm like, I'm really good at this. So started off giving free sessions, started getting testimonials, started doing pay what you can. People were blown away. People were like healing their inner child traumas. I remember this one guy was like, my dad never supported me, and I really want to do these like meditation things, but he wants me to do this other job working, I don't know, with him in construction or something. And during the session, we do some healings. And then next day, his dad's like, hey, son. And his dad doesn't call him up, and they haven't spoken for a while. But my client was really sad and not feeling supported by his dad. And his dad calls him, he's like, son, I don't know what you're planning on doing with your life, but I just want you to know that I support you in whatever you do. The next day, we have this one client who's like heartbroken. She's got a wall up in her heart. She's not getting into any relationship. And then we do a healing, and one of the cats, Patches, is like a half raccoon, half cat. It's huge. It was Alicia's cat, my ex-wife. And he always used to do sessions. I had this recliner chair, and the cats, I had 2 cats, she had one. This one cat would always be there, and he would always sit down. But this one time, as soon as she opened up, cleared the heart blocks, the cat ran up to her and just started cuddling up in her heart space. And I was like, I got to see when there's openness, see the energy of love come and fill it. And I was just like, all these amazing experiences. People were just sharing amazing things. And I quickly was like, all right, hypnosis, let's now use this. Like I just advanced the hypnosis modality times a million, to get to the root of stuff, asking the subconscious where the root blocks are. Without even knowing it, I stumbled into a past life with a client, because I was like, where does this trauma stem from? And he's like, I see myself in a boat, but it looks like me, but it's not me. And I fall and I drown. And this guy had a phobia of drowning in water stuff. So we cleared that. And I then took then I was supposed to wait like 2 years before taking the train the trainer course. But I lied and said it's been whatever amount of years I was supposed to be doing hypnosis in. Got my train the trainer course by the lady who specializes in in-between lives, past life regression, in-between life regression sessions. And then I started training others in being hypnotherapists. And yeah, it was beautiful. So growing my business and creating all these audio CDs and going to all these trade shows and creating all these YouTube videos, just like on fire. Share it with the world, make an impact. I'm skipping a whole bunch of stories because there's so many details, and it's almost the hour, so maybe I'll just do a part 2 later. So, I remember once getting an email from the organization that oversees all hypnotherapists, and they're like, we noticed you posted something about cancer or clearing cancer or something. So I post these ads like, whatever you've got going on, we can heal it. And organizations like, we're gonna, we might get you in trouble if you don't take that down. And I was like, fuck that. I hate the feeling of someone telling me who I can help and what I can help them with, right? So that planted the seed to create my own modality down the road, which is the Infinity Healing. And ever since the Infinity Healing, no one's reaching out to me saying what I can and can't do. But I think I'll conclude now, 55 minutes. We'll finish, I'll do the next part of the story and fast track all the way to now. So to conclude that, I would just say that is how I got to a fulfilling career and which I feel is one of the steps, one of the ways of breaking out of the matrix is finding something that fulfills you, something that is close to your soul's gifts, and something that is fulfilling, something that you enjoy. I remember doing past life regressions and discovered me and my younger brother where I gifted it to him on his birthday, and he went to his past life, and it was me and him in a past life, and we were Native Americans. He got killed by some guy who came off of a boat, maybe Brits or Americans. And we asked, where's that guy in this lifetime? And in this lifetime, is it somewhere in Sudan where he's getting bullied by the rebels there? Like it flipped, right? He's the one now feeling threatened by someone else with a gun. So just like we were exploring so many things, I was like, go to the edge of the universe. And I remember finding these like missing children posters, and I'd call their parents and I'll be like, hey, through hypnosis, you can go into deep state and you can actually tap into where your child is. And I remember this one call, I called them, and then she was like, yeah. And then I was like, okay, so fast forward into the session where she's like, your subconscious will tell you where she is. And then right at that point where we're going to find out where her daughter was, the phone just goes, It's like, I don't know what happened. I called back and I couldn't reach that person, but it was like we were so close. But I was like, this feeling of like, once we use hypnosis, you tap into the subconscious, superconscious, and whatever, the higher mind, infinite mind, and sky's the limit. You can discover things about past lives, in between lives, future lives. You can discover things that happened to you in the past, what is true, what is not true, experience the divine. We had one guy actually show us that, because we used to conclude every session by spreading love and light to the whole planet. Love, just spreading the higher love throughout the whole planet and universe. And I was like, let your subconscious mind show you, when we're doing this, the actual impact that it's having. And he got to see the domino effects that were happening when he was doing that. Like we hear about it in spirituality, we hear about it in religion, but because it was very, like it was like a science experiment, and spiritual science experiment, where he saw the impact of doing that. And I was like, that is so cool. And just people were having all these amazing results. They were manifesting all these amazing clients, if they needed clients, money if they needed money, relationships. And that led me to creating my Infinity Healing training, which I'll get to on the next video. So, I don't know, guys, this is, Heart to Heart with Tariq Bibi series, episode 1. And my shout outs to Donna Marie, Mermaid Queen. She is a dear friend and a psychic medium, Pisces tribe. And she told me today, she was like, Tariq, you need to share your story. And I've been feeling this weird nudge to like get a camera person and just like go to all these parts of Toronto and be like, this is where, just share all these stories that were life-changing for me and document them in movie format. Make a little mini documentary about it with nuggets of wisdom. But anyways, this was unscripted, in case you haven't noticed. But I hope it kind of followed a flow. And we'll continue next time. And by the end of this, we'll get to where we are now as humanity and myself. and get into this whole how do we break free from the matrix thing, and pull you guys into the Telegram group, which you can join right now. So we'll put the links below for the Telegram group you can join. Follow me on all social media, Tarek BB. Check out my music. We're creating some amazing songs with powerful healings under my rap name is Indigo Prophet, Prophet. And that's it. My dad's here, back from his dialysis session. You can go hang out with my folks. Love you guys. Keep shining, keep thriving. And I'll see you on the next one.